Hello and welcome to the place we call the space. I am Shawn Claxton, pastor, CEO, creator of the space, where we talk all things growth, change, and transformation, be that natural, spiritual, physical, mental, or emotional. Welcome to 2025. On the Gregorian calendar, we just started year 2025. It is January. And January, we are going to talk about a journey, the journey of the year that is ahead of us. We just came out of one year, and many of us, our years have just transitioned over into a new calendar year. What does this journey look like for you? Let's talk about a few things. So, I want to invite you to embrace the concept of this is the year of the GED, where we grow, we evolve, and we develop. Throughout this year, we should be growing, evolving, and developing. That means there are going to be some things that we have to leave, some things that we have to take on. We have to change our mindset. We're going to have to work a little bit harder. Sometimes it may be places that feel like we're in the desert and nobody understands and nobody gets it. But guess what? There's still life in the desert place. So, welcome to the place where we grow, we evolve, and we transform. If we begin to talk about development, this is the place that we have to embrace potential. What are you trying to do? Where are you trying to be? You have to know that so that we can make sure that we evolve and we get to our end goal, whatever your end goal is. There are going to be some learning challenges in the place of growth. Growth isn't instant. When you think about a seed has to go into the ground, it has to go into the dirt. There's rain, there's shine, there's wind, all types of things. But if the seed stays planted at the right time, it will begin to sprout. And while it is planted, it begins to grow roots. You have to make sure that in the place of growth, you are growing roots. Roots that are going to benefit you, roots that are your lifeline, that when it seems like you're not moving, they are still developing underground under you to fortify you, to sustain you, and to allow you to have life. Remember that we are doing the GED in 2025. We are growing, we are evolving, and we are developing. The journey of the small means that it must be and remain consistent. Every move that we make is not going to be a move that is major. It's those small things that take us over the hump. So make sure that you are staying focused in this year as we continue to move. We are growing, we are evolving, and we are developing. If we were to begin to talk about evolving or evolution, that allows us to see ourselves changing. It allows us to see the in depth of what is down on the inside of us. And when we evolve, we don't always like all the things that we see. That means some things have to fall off. Some things we put to the side. Some things we don't take with us. I had the opportunity of going through some of my bins last year. I had put some clothes up and I was like, oh, I can't give that away. And I can't give that away. And I can't give that away. And then I went through the bin this year and I was like, why did I keep that? I've evolved, I've changed. And what I thought I was going to need and I was going to like no longer fits my palette for right now. So what did I do? Instead of keeping it and hoping I would come back to it, I put it in a bag. It was like, it's time to give that away. Why? Because I need to make room for something new. And we can't always make room for new things when we continue to hold on to the old patterns, the old situations, the old things that are in our life. And when we begin to develop, I'm not just talking about our just where we are right now, but that goes for our financial relationships, that goes for our natural relationships with people. Maybe it's your educational relationship, maybe it's your job, your career relationship. There are things in our life that have to change, and that causes us to evolve. True evolution comes when you honor both progress and process. And it's okay for you not to like what you used to like before, what used to come natural, it changes. And so that means you have to be willing to embrace change. So we are moving, and this creates a newer, better version of ourselves. Remember, I said, welcome to the space, to the place we call the space. That means we are opening ourselves up for the new, for the transition, for the change. Because why? We want to be a more profound us. We want to be authentic in how we walk and how we talk, how people see us and what we give them. We want to give them the very best version of who we were made to be, who God created us to be. Welcome to this place. When we talk about development, development is the focus on building the skills, habits, and mindsets that support our goals. Have you sat down? Do you know what your goals are? What are you planning for you this year? Maybe for the first of the year, I have laid out some things for my quarter. And I said, I'm going to come back and revisit this again after I get through January, February, March, and April. And then I'll look at my next quarter. Sometimes we try to look at the big picture and we try to write it all out all at one time. And sometimes we can only take baby steps. I allot that or align that with the student that is just starting their degree program. And if you're going into the degree and you're trying to get a bachelor's, it's 120 credits. Well, that seems like it is a lot when most classes are only 3 credits, some are 4. And you begin to look at it and you think, oh my gosh, how in the world can I get through the next 120 credits? That is going to take me 3, 4, 5 years, depending on how aggressive you are. What you have to do is take a moment to make sure that you only focus on the current semester. What classes are you taking right now? What 3 or 4 classes are you taking this spring semester? Let's finish that with a bang. And then we can look at summer and fall and add 3, 6, 9, 12 more credits. And if you begin to do that, what happens is in 4 years, you have completed 115, 118 credits. But if you look at it with the natural eye at the very beginning, it seems very overwhelming. That lets us know that life can be overwhelming. And it's up to us to take life in bits, in chunks, in pieces, and to process that. So as we are developing, it's for us to make sure that we don't faint, we don't lose heart. We don't have time to faint. We don't have time to quit the race. We got to see the race through all the way to the end. The Bible talks about us getting to the finish line of the race. Life is, we got to get to the finish line and not stop, not quit in the middle. That is our part of our development, whether it is personal, whether it is professional. We have to make sure that we are developing and our future is unlocking for greater opportunities. Why? Because we are growing, we are evolving, and we are developing. How do we set ourselves up and get ready for growth? We have to have a growth mindset. You got to be ready for the next chapter. Sometimes we're not always ready, but we do that by believing in improvement and we begin to learn. We begin to read, we begin to pray, we begin to seek God to open us up to various chapters of our life and realize that where we are right now it is not necessarily our whole book. It's just a chapter, it's just a paragraph in our story. You've got to shift from thinking I can't until knowing that I can. And that comes with effort and that comes with time. You got to set clear goals. You have to know the direction that you are going. The Bible says, for he knows the path that we take. He's already laid it out. And that means we've got to dig deep. We've got to seek the Father so that he will begin to help us. So we won't go down a path that does not align and is not for us, but we stay on the path that has been laid out for us. We have to make sure that we identify those beliefs, those patterns that keep us from growing, that keep us from evolving. We've got to step into the place of of not so much of staying, in the place of the comfort zone, because comfort zones are easy. If we remain in the area of what is comfortable, we will not evolve into a better, more astute version of ourselves. So we have to push past the places of comfort. We have to take those small but intentional steps. Let this be a year of intentionality. Think about things. Make sure that you pursue them even when they are uncomfortable. You may have to write them out. You may have to have an accountability partner. You may have to go before the Father and seek Him. You may have to fast and pray. Whatever your thing is, in making sure that we pray and we fast about all things. But sometimes we have to go before the Father just a little bit more to say, I need help on this. I need you to see me through. I need you to give me the wisdom and the knowledge for this goal right here, that I can write the vision and make it plain so that he may run that reads it, or so that I can run when I read it, because this is what is before me. It is important that we are open to feedback, that we go back and we assess. And just because you start this, maybe you got to go back. You got to have a strategic plan. You got to have some strategies in place and say, hey, this isn't working. And so I'm going to step back. I'm going to revamp. I'm going to look at this all over again just to make sure that I am on the track that I need to be on for the growth that is before me. We have to make sure that we are self-aware, checking in regularly. When is the last time you checked in with yourself? You've tapped in to see, how am I growing? Am I stagnant? Is this working? Did I lay it out? Do I understand? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What are areas that I need to develop? We have to have check-ins. And that is okay for you to check in with yourself, because remember, this is your growth plan. And you need to make sure that you are growing while we are stepping into the plan. We have to make sure that we are developing life habits. Commit to daily learning. I committed this year to reading a book a month. That means I am well into one of the books. Maybe I'm going to get through more than one book a month, but I call it lifelong learning. There are so many things for us to learn. And we can only do that when we invest in tools that are going to help us. You decide what your learning habit is going to be, whether it's going to be journaling, whether it's going to be writing, whether it's going to be listening to various podcasts. In order for growth to happen, you have to plant yourself. Are you planted? How well are you planted? How well are you watering the seed that you are planting? Your life habits. Surround yourself with growth-minded people. If people aren't growing, if the situation around you isn't growing, you need to stop and analyze you are doing. It is necessary to have the people in your life that understand, they have your best interest, and they can check in, they can nudge you and say, hey, sis, hey, bro, I don't see you moving. What are we doing? I'm coming alongside you as your person to help get you to the next level. You want to make sure that you have those people. Make sure that you give yourself some grace, that you have patience, and that you are resilient. We give everybody else grace, but sometimes we forget to give our own self a little bit of grace. If you fall off this week, then get right back up the next week. We don't count it out the whole year. Why? Because we are trying to grow. And make sure that you acknowledge your progress. Sometimes we look for the big, big wins, but it's the small things. Maybe you got through a whole chapter this week of reading the book that you were in. Maybe you journaled. Maybe you started writing a book that you're working on and you got 3 paragraphs down. That is celebrating a small win. You have got to make sure that you keep your eyes on the milestone, because that keeps us motivated and it keeps us focused. When we look at the word growth, growth is a journey. And the year of 2025 is a journey. And each month, each day, each week plays a part in our journey. And we want the Lord to help us on the journey. You may get weary, you may get worn, but you don't get to quit. No matter what, you must keep moving. If we look at how do we get ready to evolve, evolution in our life, we've got to know that change is inevitable. Everybody, everything must go through change. And if you say, well, I'm not doing anything, well, you're getting one day older, what? And that means you're changing. And if you keep living, you'll find out that you're going to have some aches, some pains, some bruises. You're going to have something that you didn't have 5 years ago, 3 months ago is going to happen in your life. So change is inevitable, and you have to make room for the new. If you want to evolve, you want to burst out, you've got to make room. Have you made room? What are you getting rid of so that your capacity can be stretched? A word for this year, I gave you two: intentionality and capacity. What is your capacity looking like? In order for you to evolve, you have to make sure that you are allowing yourself the space to embrace change. You have to have self-awareness, making sure you reflect on who you are, and where you want to go. Awareness is the foundation for our transformation. Don't forget to remain aware, to tap in to yourself, making sure you understand where you are going. If we are going to evolve, we have got to let go of some of the things that are in our past. If we look in the rearview mirror, if when we are driving, we notice that what's behind us gets smaller as what's in front of us allows it gets bigger. That's why that front mirror is so much bigger. There are so many things to look at and to see. And that is our guide for us as we are moving forward. So make sure that you are not stuck looking at those bad habits, those past relationships, the mindsets that we no longer need, and you are thriving, you are pushing, and you are striving for what is in front of you. You have to adapt to a vision of your future self. You may not understand, and I don't understand how to get to each thing that is ahead of me, but I can see some of it. I know what it is. You got to journal, you got to write it down, you got to set a goal. So don't forget that you are looking and visiting and trying to adapt to the future you that is going to be. There is vision and there is light in front of you. When we seek God the Father and ask Him for guidance and ask Him for direction, He said that He knows our end from the beginning. So that means He will lay it out for us and He will guide us. And everything that we've been through will work for our good, even though it may not feel good and it may not have felt good. We can use it as we begin to go forward. Embrace those areas of discomfort. Not everything in our life is going to feel comfortable. Evolution often feels uncomfortable. I can only imagine for the beautiful butterfly that we saw, the caterpillar that had to spin the cocoon and go into the cocoon. I'm sure all of that was not comfortable. But in order for the beauty of the butterfly to come forward, it had to go into the cocoon. So when you have those cocoon experiences in your life, they are producing something beautiful. Don't push back on them. We've got to embrace them, and it allows us to move forward. Align your actions with your goals. Take action. What do you need to get to that next level? You have to know what you need. It's important for you to be aware because that is what is going to set you up for the evolving of the new you. Are you ready to evolve? Are you ready to grow? Are you ready to develop? Are you ready to be a better version of you? Are you ready to walk into the things of God? And though this is a natural, me giving a lot of natural, this is our spiritual life as well. Are you ready to take His word and apply it in your life? Are you ready to eat the scroll? Are you ready to grow and to evolve? It takes time, it takes effort, but it takes us being consistent. Let consistency be true in your everyday life. It takes, they say, 30 plus days to make a new habit. So you may have to put yourself on a timer and say, every day at this time, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. It's going to be repetitive for me to do it until it becomes a habit, until it becomes life forming, until it becomes a change to where you no longer think about having to do it and you just begin to do it. Why? Because it is part of the evolution of us. Remember that be patient with the process. You got to ride the process out. You don't always understand. We don't always understand how process works, but process does work. So you got to ride it out. You got to trust the journey and celebrate the process that you are making along the way. Even the process sometimes of us not moving forward, we've got to say, you know, I can acknowledge that today was not my best day. That's still progress because you see yourself and you know that I've got to do better. So you got to take it and you have to run with it. So we've talked about growth, we've talked about evolution, evolving, and then how do we develop? We develop by defining the our developmental goals. How are we going to do that? We have to be specific about what we want to see. We've got to be specific about the skills and the mindset, the relations, our career. We've got to lay those out. We got to know the direction that we are going. We've got to commit to being lifelong learners. As I said before, have you taken a moment to study you as you go to create a plan? Who are you? What skill sets do you need to determine? Are you a great leader or do you need to build on your leadership skills? What do you see? What things do you see that you can change? You can pray about, you can ask the Father, you can begin to evolve and you can become different. You got to know what those things are. And as you begin to study you and see those things will help you grow. You need an action plan. We are going to have to write some things out so we can achieve and we can make check marks and mark those off, because when we see it, we need a script. We need it in the earth. We need to speak it and we need to write it. We need to scribe it. So make sure that your plan isn't just in your head, but that it is written out. We need to prioritize what is important for us to do right now. And we also need to know what is true right now. Sometimes we try to see all the things all at one time, but what is necessary for us to know and to grow in right now? We need to know those things so we can make sure that they are happening and we are allowing them to function and in our life. So necessary, so necessary, so necessary. We seek feedback. Trust the people. Have somebody in your life that you can trust, that you can talk to them about where you are. You need to be able to talk to them about where you are and what is going on in your life. We already talked about stepping outside of our comfort zones, and make sure you invest in you. Don't invest in everybody else and you don't invest in you. And you know what that investment entails, whether it's knowledge, whether it's going back to school, whether it's working out, whether it's setting better financial goals, whether it's investing into your business. Make sure you take time to invest in you. You take time to love on you. You take time to work those things out on the inside of you. Necessary and important. Reflect and then adjust. So when we reflect, we look at the things that we are working on. Is it working? Is it not? If it's working, let's keep building on that. And if it isn't working, then we might want to discard that and begin to add something new. Remember that development, it is an ongoing process that requires intentional effort, resilience. You must prepare yourself for setting goals and staying consistent and embracing every opportunity that lies before you. This is the only way that we are going to grow, evolve, and we are going to develop as we go into 2025. Growth is necessary. There is a seed that has to go into the ground. You are the seed, and you got to allow yourself to mature and to develop. You got to set up roots so that you will be all that you are supposed to be in this season of life. Check in on the plan that you write out as you create your plan. What does that look like? Don't be afraid to ask someone else for help, because we don't know all things. And if somebody else has already invented the wheel, make sure you look and you speak to them and you talk to them and you take ideas and you begin to manifest off of the ideas. You begin to use them because they will help us to grow. Make sure that you are developing development is so very, very big in our everyday life. We can't stay in the place of non-development, but we have to stay in the place of growth. So this is our year to nurture our potential. What does our potential look like? What does our path look like? What does our progress look like? You got to nurture that. You got to look at every new experience, and you have to grow with that experience. You got to allow yourself the ability to be stretched. And when we are stretched, we evolve. Stretching is not easy. There's something I love about stretching because it doesn't always happen all at one time. If you think about a woman that is carrying a child, she doesn't go with month one looking like she does when she's in month 8. But she may feel like she can't grow anymore. What? But every day, stretching happens just a little bit more. Everything on the inside of her is moving around in order for her to be able to carry that baby and to carry that baby to full term. You are pregnant with something. Stretching is happening down on the inside of you. You have got to deliver and allow the gifts, allow the knowledge, allow the wisdom, allow what is on the inside of you to come through the birth canal and become evident in the earth. You've got to be stretched. And that means you got to go through the process of being pregnant with what you have and nurturing it and nourishing you in order to be able to deliver what is down on the inside of you. Allow yourself the time to change and to adapt to this version of you. Since change doesn't all come at one time and it is inevitable, it is going to happen, you have to give yourself space to change. You have to give yourself grace to grow. In the space where we grow, we evolve, and we develop, we have to give ourselves developmental opportunities in order for it to work in our life. Let this year be a canvas for growth, evolution, and development. A year where you become your best self. And you can only do that one step at a time. Checking in with you, making sure you understand, making sure you pray, making sure you fast, making sure you seek wise counsel, making sure that you are in the counsel. The Bible says, in the multitude of counsel, there is safety. Making sure that you have somebody to check in with, someone that can pray with you, someone that can talk you through, and making sure that you are studying you and you are studying trends and patterns for what you have ahead of you. You got to shift your thinking. This is a year for you to shift thinking. Take a moment to listen to what you are processing in your own mind. How are you thinking? How have you laid things out? What do you need to let go? What do you need to leave behind? In a couple upcoming episodes, we're going to talk about what are some of the things we need to leave behind as we go on the journey. Starting in January, what do we need to leave behind? We need to leave some things behind so that we can continue to grow, evolve, and we can develop. And stop limiting yourself. There is more on the inside of you than what you think. We don't know that until we are what? We are put in those situations and we are stretched. That's the great thing about the space. There are spaces in our life. We never know what we can do until we are put in that space. I never thought that I would be sitting in front of you doing this, but here we are in the space talking all things growth, change, and transformation. And as you put yourself in those places, you are able to grow, to change, and evolve. This is your year for expansion. This is your season that you can grow, think outside the box. This is your year that you can tap into the place and do all things according to Christ who strengthens you. What you need is already down on the inside of you, and it is time for you to grow, to change, and